I think they really like you. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be here. In the olden days, BAC, before air conditioning, we worshiped in the basement, which we called the summer chapel. But I'm pretty sure when there are feet going past overhead, the roar of large metal fans and exposed pipes, plumbing, not organ, you're in the basement. We UUs tend not to lust after heaven, but there is much to be said for just being on the ground floor. Speaking of heaven, when I was growing up, even though I technically went to a public school, every Friday they served fish sticks, as dictated in the Bible, in Paul's letter to Mrs. Paul. And whenever we kids broke an ankle or pierced a lung, the teachers told us to walk it off or to offer it up. Mothers liked to say, the first baby is always early. Buffalo, New York was 80% Catholic and rather famous for premature babies. Sometimes a 2 or 3 month premature baby could weigh 10 or 12 pounds. I'm surprised more studies weren't done about this medical miracle. Any Catholics here? Wait, here's a test. Your neighbor, Jack Riley, whom you've known for 30 years, wins an award. But on the certificate, his name is John Riley. What? Well, he couldn't be named Jack because Jack isn't the name of a saint. That is the correct answer. We should have a 2-drink minimum and do trivia. Leave it to say that growing up, no one in my neighborhood knew what a Unitarian Universalist even was until Bruce Springsteen came out with his hit song, Born in the UUA. So this sermon is called The Pursuit of Happiness because I thought if I called it The Pursuit of the Status Quo, no one would come. Happiness is a very large concept. 2,400 years ago, Socrates wrestled with the question, how should one live? And what is meant by a good life? In general terms, it's a satisfying and pleasant existence. But how can we set about creating this among the unavoidable eventualities and practicalities that real lives involve? The challenges, difficulties, setbacks, accidents, good luck, bad luck, demands made by others, and our own limitations. Because happiness seems to be at the heart of the matter, no matter how we approach life. Why do we go to the doctor? To be in good health. Why do we want to be in good health? If I'm not, I can't do my work or activities. Why do we work? To make money. Why do we want money? To pay? Okay, the point isn't an infinite regress, but if we continue, we'd most likely end up with the word happiness. How to achieve that flourishing life is the goal of our actions. A life for which we're the only candidates, not animals, not cult members, not even children, really. We have choices, the ability to make a rational plan for our lives. And here is a major reason religion has survived and thrived, because it often offers to do this for people. Likewise, cults and other lifestyle-dominating organizations. Yet, as humanists, we cannot adopt and adhere to someone else's idea of what leads to happiness, but must decide for ourselves by asking how to live based on what we know of human experience in the real world. If you found your way to this sanctuary, you're probably a humanist in addition to whatever else you may be. You believe our ethics should be informed by what human beings are really like. Simply put, when they suggest teaching abstinence-only sex education in high schools, you most likely roll your eyes. And you believe our ethics should be informed by what will help people thrive in this world rather than the next. You feel it's our individual responsibility to make our own moral choices rather than receive them from a political or religious leader or a film star or a hotel owner. Because when individuals submit to systems, we hand over the right to do our thinking and choosing. Philosopher Bertrand Russell joked that most people would rather die than think, and most people do. Certainly, it's easier to grab a one-size-fits-all model from a pile of subway literature or from the Center for Eternal Something in Midtown. A humanist deems this unacceptable. It's an abdication of responsibility, which at the same time means a loss of opportunity. We need to be able to justify our moral choices, as should others. One ancient school of thought on how to live was founded by Epicurus, who advised the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. However, his view was that the conventional pleasures associated with food, drink, and love contain the seeds of pain within them and are therefore to be avoided for the true pleasures of learning, discussing, and moderation in our appetites. Epicureanism has since come to mean the exact opposite, indulgence, much like hookup has apparently changed its meaning from the days when we called a handyman to come hook up the dryer. And now we call handy persons rather than handymen. Aristotle, who famously proclaimed, "Happiness depends on ourselves," also pointed out that saying the happy life is one that's desirable and means living well is not saying very much at all. Everyone wants to be happy, and everyone agrees that being happy is related to an individual's well-being. Aristotle's ingredients for the happy life were pleasure, political activity, and philosophy, of course, with the key being balance. However, his virtues tended to be more self-serving than social, and that's where we're going to take a slight turn. By a happy life, I think we desire one worth living, that's fruitful, flourishing, and has a positive impact on others. Everyone will have a different definition for their own happy life, but at the core will be caring, love, and a friendship with others, activity, doing and making, learning, reevaluating as new information arrives, and freedom, the freedom to not be enslaved by having to live an inauthentic life. Being true to ourselves also carries over to career choice, whether to marry, and whether to have children. There should be a sense of integration with a community and ideally society as a whole. Humanists believe we live in a world where we have certain duties to other beings as they hopefully do to us. And I'd be lax if I didn't add my mother's secret to a happy life. When you enter a building, immediately locate your fire exits. She's a nurse. Finally, I like to say finally about halfway through. It feels like it just kind of wakes everybody up. to our choices. They're difficult choices. When we decide to do something, it's time not spent doing something else. All Souls is a great example, where there are 300 regular attendees, but 400 committees you can join. One has to make tough decisions, whether to get out the vote, get out the karma, or get out the coffee. Maybe you've heard about the Silicon Valley management consultant vacationing in a quaint Brazilian village. One morning, a fisherman rowing a small boat came ashore with a basket full of fish. The consultant from San Francisco was impressed and asked, "How long does it take you to catch that many fish?" The fisherman replied, "Oh, just a few hours." "Then why not stay out longer and catch even more?" "Oh, this is enough to feed my whole family," said the fisherman. "So what do you do for the rest of the day?" asked the consultant. "I go home, play with my kids. In the afternoon, I take a nap with my wife. And in the evening, we join our friends in the village square for a drink. We play music and dance." The consultant offered a proposal. "I can help you become more successful. Going forward, you should spend more time at sea and try to catch as many fish as possible. Then you can buy a bigger boat and catch even more fish. Soon, you'll be able to afford several boats, hire people, have your own production plant and a headquarters in Rio de Janeiro." The fisherman asked, "And after that?" "Oh, after that, you can go public and you'll be rich." The fisherman asked, "And after that?" "Then you can retire, move to a village, catch a few fish, play with the kids, spend time with your wife, and relax in the square." The fisherman was puzzled. "Isn't that what I'm doing right now?" A lot of soul searching may make sense, but in New York City, we're busy, we're in a hurry. We need the tricks or shortcuts to happiness. If we're in a 12-step program, we want to get it down to 6 or 7 steps. Plus, TV has gotten really good the past few years. So a woman named Bronnie Ware wrote a book based on her time as a palliative caregiver called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself. This is the most common regret of all. I wish I didn't work so hard. I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. And I wish that I had let myself be happier. For over 8 decades and counting, a Harvard study has tracked a group of individuals asking thousands of questions and taking measurements to find out what really keeps people healthy and happy. Through all the years of investigating these lives, one crucial factor stands out for the consistency and power of its ties to physical and mental health and longevity. It's not career achievement or exercise or a healthy diet. But there's an asterisk to avoid lawsuits where they say, "But all these things are still important." The one thing that dominates all is good relationships. In fact, the scientists said if they had to boil almost 90 years of 1 million measurements to a single principle, it would be good relationships keep us healthier and happier, period. Yes, humans need nutrition and exercise and a purpose, but we really need each other. The Greek philosophers known as the Stoics understood that external factors play a role in happiness, that governments can wrong their citizens, and agreed that we need to fight against social injustices. However, they felt this was most successfully accomplished by individuals who had already embraced a personal philosophy that was affording them a good life in order to be able to create the same for others. Viktor Frankl's remarkable book, Man's Search for Meaning, chronicles his experiences in Auschwitz and other camps. He considered why some inmates survived inconceivable physical cruelty while others succumbed and died. Frankl said, "We who lived in concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts, comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. They may have been few in number, but they offered sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a person but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude to any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response, and in our response lies our growth and freedom." Collective wisdom tells us that outwardly directed activities are the foundation of a happy life, and that the best way to be happy is to work at making other people happy. Sometimes that can mean helping others, and sometimes it can mean allowing ourselves to be helped. And finally, for real this time, happiness is not an algorithm. It's the shared endeavor to make the world large enough to contain the variety of ways free individuals wish to live, and strong enough to hold us all together. Thank you.